Hello everyone, DQ here, and today I have very interesting work for you. This is the Mauer Guard Millennium Redline, or GM Redline for short, which is in first glance a normal dimple lock, but when you take a look at the key, you will realize that there is something weird going inside this lock. And we have the exterior part, which is this with the anti-snap features, and the interior part, which is the solid piece. And let's see the key working. Notice anything strange? Yeah, this core, the inner core, which is the interior, actually goes all the way to here. So the actuator is attached to this core. And what happens if I put the key in the exterior part, you may ask? Well, the whole lock rotates. How crazy is that? You can even see through the lock, like the other side, which is not typical for many locks. You know, the actuator is a solid piece, or at least we have this, which is the actuator, and this two parts which basically block it, and you cannot insert your tool and, let's say, go to the other side of the lock. But with this lock you can. And the way it works, it has 2-pin stacks here and 6-pin stacks here on this side, and this is the main stack pins. This lock has very thick housing, as you can see here, the housing. Let me rotate it for you so you can see how thick the housing is, and it actually has pins on the top as well. So it has 4 pins here on top, 2 pins here on top, and on the main stack it has 6 pins on this side, as I explained, and 2 pins on this side. The pins themselves are not misaligned, which means they are directly opposing each other, and that's why the beating is that way. I've made this, marked this key on a few places so you can see better. We have a bunch of max lifts which are not visible on the key, but I've marked them so you can see. And I've also done this little drawing to be able to explain a little bit better. So we have the interior core, which is the one core. It goes all the way to here, to the anti-snap. All the way to here is where the long core ends, and here is the short core here, the exterior core, which has 4 pins, 2 on top and 2 on bottom. Here are they, 2 on top, which are standard, and 2 on bottom, which one of them is a spool. The interior core, it has 2 pins at the front, which are a little bit, as you can see, there is more space between them, and that's for a reason. And the reason is, when you insert the key from here, it actually grabs all the pins except these two ones, but it still is able to rotate the core, and that is done by having master pins in here. So there is 2 pins here, as I explained, in the front of the lock, which can operate without being set. But for the key to work, they have a second place when they can be set, because as you can see, when I insert from the front, the key itself has beating, and they are lifted a little bit to the second shear line. And it's not a second shear line, but I hope you can understand what I'm trying to explain. And this is the way that actually the key is able to operate from either direction. So what is actually mirrored on the key is this part here is flipped and is placed here. If you can see, here is the wall lift, 2 max lifts, 2 max lift, 1, let's call it mid lift, mid lift. Here is mid, max, mid, very high, mid, max, mid, very high, and these two, they do not repeat. So when you insert the key from the interior side, it actually engages the 6 pins in the interior side, the first two which are here, and the next four and four on top, which are here and here. And this is where the actuator sits. As you can see, there are no pins from here to here, but the key goes in there. And when you operate from the exterior part, from which we are going to be picking, the first two pins again line up. These are the isolated pins. And here, as I explained, here there are no pins. And here in this core, the key interacts with 4 pins on top and 4 pins on bottom, which are those pins here. And as I explained earlier, the pins on top are standards. So here on this side they're standard, and on the bottom we have 2 standards and 2 spools, which actually give you a little bit of trouble. And as I will show you once again, like how both of the cores turn when you operate from the exterior and from the interior, just one of the cores is engaged, and that's enough to turn the cam. And one more thing I have to say is that because the pins are not misaligned, when you actually pick the lock and you go to the 180 degrees, it will lock up again. And I'm not sure how they done it, because I didn't get this lock and I cannot get it yet. I don't have the tools. But only the top pins, no, actually only the bottom pins, the main stack drivers, they jump in and lock the lock again. So when I'm going to pick this lock, we'll talk about picking strategy in a moment. When I turn it and pick both of the cores and turn it 180, it will relock, and I believe it's only fair to say the lock is picked if you pick it again and do the full 360 rotation. And yeah, so now let's talk about picking strategy. First of all, if you just will be picking it from the exterior, obviously, because that's how an attacker would, or bowler would, pick a lock in the wild. And for this reason I modified this tension range, which is just a little bit filed here. And the idea is, because I'm tensioning like this, the idea is when I insert it all the way, the tensioner actually tensions the back core first, the long core, and after it's picked, it tensions the front core. And the reason for that is, if you can actually pick the front core first, but it will be more convenient to pick the back core, which has the actuator, and you need to reach the back pins first, and then after it's picked, pick the front core. Then you go to the second stage, which is 180 degrees. The lock locks itself back, and what happens is that these drivers, actually I believe this one and this one are the one that engage, and here these two ones engage, and you have to pick them again in the same manner, tensioning the back core first, then the front core, and you can do the full 360. Other than the modified tension wrench, you're gonna actually be needing a modified flag. So let's take a quick look here at my flag, which I'll be using. This is a Dongshi, Honest Dongshi, which I filed down here. Here is the mirror image flag from the same set, which I haven't modified in any way. That's how I received it. And you can see the big difference. Here is the most important thing, because if you don't file these ridges off, this white part here, you basically need to file it like so. And even like that, it barely reaches the last pin, as you can see when I insert it. Here is the last pin. And the keyway is kind of tricky, but you have a nice platform from which you can actually pick. I go from here, and basically the flag can pick top stack and bottom stack very easy. Once the lock is turned 180 degrees, you do basically the same thing. put the tensioner, and again with the flag. But this one I had to really modify it because it couldn't reach because of this white part here. If this is on your fork, you just cannot reach the last pin, and you have to reach, like when you pick it, you have to reach this last pin. And yeah, I think that's all the information I have to say about this walk. I hope this makes sense to you, and now let's actually pick the lock. Okay, Mauer guard Millennium redline is in the vise, and as you can see, the key is working and it's actuating both of the cores. Now, using my special tensioner, I will tension the back core first and start by picking the top pins. One is binding, click, two, click, three is binding, click, and we have some core movement. So now the main stack pins, pin 3, pin 4, pin 6, and we have some core movement. Now pins 4 and 5 are spools. So I must be careful when counter rotating. Okay, I think the back core is picked. Now I'll pick the front core, top pins, and bottom pins, and we have rotation. So as you can see, both of the cores are rotating, but now once we get to the 180 degrees, the lock is not open. Both of the cores are locked again, so I need to insert the tensioner once more and pick the top pins, which are now on the bottom. Okay, the back core is picked, now the front core, and we have once again picked both of the cores, and you can see that was a full 360 of the lock picked. And I will show you once again that the key is working from both sides. So yeah, this is the Mauer Mauer Guard Millennium red wine picked. Hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day and bye bye.